Nail by Ian Jones and Andy Edwards. Episode 7. The Hero. Sunday, March the 29th, 1942. Nail has decided to make the most of the warm weather and go for a long walk while Maggie is at chapel. He bumps into Merv in the graveyard and is shocked by what he has to say. Just as it seems the day is drawing to a gentle close, there's a shock in store at Mrs. Cooper's as we say farewell to Pontdderw. Maggie was asleep when I got in last night. Managed to get into bed without disturbing her though. Couldn't find the candles, so to strip off in the dark. Off to chapel in Aunt Lass this morning she is. Taking Verdun with her, and then we're going over to Claude at Mrs. Cooper's for Sunday dinner. Does a lovely roast, Claude. I normally drive them up to Aunt Lass, but Di and Philly are going with them today, so Di is driving. They're trying it out for a change. Philly is fed up with listening to Reverend Pontdderw James's sanctimonious sermons. You'd swear that man has never so much as broken wind, she joked. Oh, hush, Philly, Maggie said, that's blasphemous. And then she laughed herself. Can't help it, man, she's always laughing. Come to the Wesley for a change in Philly, she said. It's a lovely little chapel. So that's what's happening. Not sure what Di thinks about it, mind, but it doesn't matter anyway, does it? You got no choice. I've decided to go for a nice long walk. I got no patrol today, so I can make the most of the weather. Lovely spring morning. I go up to see Tommy in the cottage first. I haven't taken any food with me, and he's a bit put out. What'll I have for breakfast now, then? I got a bit of pie from the WI. That's it. We'll have that then, Tommy, I say. Pie for breakfast? I'm not an animal, you know. I don't think animals have pies for breakfast, I laugh. He doesn't reply. I leave him to his travails and head down to the ship. Friend or foe? Says Eddie as he lets me in. Does it matter? I ask. Suppose not, he replies. Long as you've got a wallet. I rig book and pencil and Ernie buses are at the bar. They're discussing Edna's trial. I'm not in the mood for small talk today, so I sit on my own in the snug and look at the paper for a bit. Nothing much in it. Only the bloody war. I won't lie to you. I'm getting fed up with it. I do what I can do. No point in worrying about things I can't control. Think I'll get off. I'll see you later, perhaps, boys, I say as I drain my glass. Bit of a flying visit, Niall, says Eddie. You all right? Aye, just fancy a walk. Make the most of the weather, you know. Mr. and Mrs. Briggs are on their way to St. Ishmael's for morning service. Oh, Nosy Owens is with them. Now there's 3 people I'd rather not meet. They don't see me and I wait behind the old oak tree in the square until it's safe to break cover. This auxiliary training is coming in useful, I chuckled to myself. I walked down past Helen John's clothes shop. Not much in there in the way of clothes these days. Make do and mend, they say now. Still, she sells quite a bit of wool, mind you. I stroll across the park, then over the Oak Bridge to the other side of the river. Don't come this side of the river often. Not sure why, really. It's a lovely walk. Right up the other side of the valley I hike. Through the forestry to the top of the ridge. The forest floor is thick with needles and there's a pungent smell of pine in the air. It's been a funny few days. Well, not funny, but you know what I mean. Funny strange like, not funny ha-ha. Edna's trial, meeting Becca and Robert, and building an ambush point with Di. Lot to think about, you know. Maggie's been great, mind. Puts up with a hell of a lot from me. Never grumbles. Gentle as a lamb she is. Strong though, don't get me wrong. Keeps me in my place and works non-stop. Cooking, cleaning, washing. She's a bloomin' hero. God, I love her. It's a bit of a trek through the woods, but it's a lovely view back over the village when you get up there. It's about 100 foot higher than Picton Hill, and you get to see the river running underneath the town. Makes it look like a bit like a picture postcard. I take my time walking back down, stop a few times, enjoy the view up the valley towards Blaenwine. It's a 2-hour service up at the Wesley in Lantlas, so I got plenty of time. Pop a couple of pine cones in my pocket as I drop back down through the forest. Maggie liked them, I think, as I rub my fingers over their rough surface. I pick up a twig, drop it in the water as I cross the oak bridge over the Ishmael and into the park. As I emerge through Pontdderw Bach wood, I can see a lone figure standing among the graves. He doesn't move as I walk through the oak field into the churchyard. You all right, Merv? I say, as I walk up the gravel path between the headstones. He's standing by an empty grave. Howard's grave. Aye, he replies, unconvincingly. I touch the wooden cross on Uncle Jacob's grave as I pass and say hello to Mrs. Cooper. What do you do when you're on your own, Merv? Oh, I'm just having a moment, to myself. Oh, sorry, boy. Do you want me to go? No, he replies. You're all right. We stand together and look into the empty hole. Do you know what, Niall? He says and then pauses. I don't answer, but I'm pretty sure I know what he's going to say. He looks up and then directly at me. Was I next, Niall? I still don't speak. Do you remember how ill I was after I went to hers for supper? Stomach pains for days. She even offered me a tonic a couple of days later. Do you think she was poisoning me as well? I don't know, I reply. There's no point thinking about it, Merv. You're all right now, aren't you? Yeah, I know, he says dismissively. But it gets in your head, man. Was this going to be my grave as well? We look at each other momentarily, then back into the empty hall as the church clock strikes 11. It's eerie standing at the graveside, so close to the tolling bell. Never send to know for whom the bell tolls, eh, Merv? It tolls for thee. Merv looks at me blankly. As the final chime fades away, he walks away from the grave and leans on the buttress. I join him and sit on the curbstone next to him. Didn't tell you I nearly died, Niall, he says. I thought it was only the once you had supper there. You didn't go there again, did you? No, not her, he replies. When I went to Ramsgate to see Des in a bed and breakfast. I remember him going to Ramsgate, but he's never mentioned being ill or anything. No, you never said, Merv. I know, he replies, then pauses. Operation Dynamo. Huh? Dunkirk, I say, quizzically. Aye, Dunkirk. Are you telling me you went to Dunkirk, Merv? Aye, twice. Twice? You went to Dunkirk twice and you've never told me? Never told no one. Well, why the hell not? I'm baffled by his secrecy. Actually, no, not his secrecy. His humility. Is this the same Merv who can bore you to tears with tales of when I was in the Navy? The same Merv who speaks about his days at sea as if he was the greatest seaman since Nelson himself? Dunkirk, I say disbelievingly. Well, how? Why, Merv? There was no stopping Des. He was going with or without me. At a boat, see, fishing boat, about 15 foot long. The Alexandra. Beautiful looking thing she was. Made of Canadian spruce. Looked a bit like a Rodney boat. Well, I don't know what a Rodney boat is, but it doesn't matter. Only 15 foot? You must be nutty as a fruitcake, Merv, risking your neck through the channel on a tiny little thing like that. The boys were stuck there, weren't they? Getting blown to pieces by the Boche. Felt as if I owed it to them, Neil, after what happened to the Abu Kir, you know. Felt as if it was time for me to do something. Something to make a contribution, like. Felt like I owed you boys something after what you did in the Somme. I was only involved for one day, Merv, I say. I was a prisoner for the rest of the war, remember? Well, that's one more day than me, Neil. I was in a bloody holiday house while you boys were getting shelled. Anyway, I went. Second time back into Ramsgate, about half a mile out, I fell in a drink. Bloody freezing it was. I had to try and swim ashore. Hadn't been swimming since we used to jump into the Taff from under Canton Bridge when I was a boy. I was going under. But Des, he jumped in, pulled me back to shore. Hanging on an old tyre I was. Saved my life, he did. Thought I was heading for the Davy Jones locker. Didn't fancy another trip after that, to be honest. Shook me up a bit, you know. Took the spirit out of me. Well, a surprise, I say. You're a hero, Merv. A bloody hero. Shut up, man, he replies. And don't you dare tell no one. Promise me now, Neil, no one. I promise, I say. I know how to keep a secret, shipmate. It's good to be alive, innit, Neil? Aye, Merv, it is, aye. We walk from the graveyard past the school onto the main road. I'm off to the ship for one, says Merv. Oh, Ernie and Irig were in earlier, I reply. I'd come with you, but I better get home and change. We're going to Claude's for dinner. Oh, see you later, skipper, says Merv. Aye, I reply and salute. I'm not keeping secrets from Maggie, so I'll have to tell her, but nobody else. Good old Merv. Did his bit after all, I think to myself, as I pull on my good trousers. I'm looking forward to Claude's Sunday dinner after my walk. I built up a proper appetite, I have. Maggie and I hold hands as we walk to Mrs. Cooper's house. Verdon walks backwards in front of us, talking non-stop, he is, about the Sea Scouts, and when I join the Navy, saying, You sound like Uncle Merv, says Maggie. God, don't say that, Maggie, I say, and we both giggle. Afternoon, Mr. and Mrs. Ackerman, says Nobby the Death from the door of his shop where he's drawing hard on a woodbine. Only calls me Mr. Ackerman when I'm with Maggie. Afternoon, Nobby, we say together. Lovely weather, eh, he says, as he throws his cigarette into the gutter and goes back indoors. On we walk, hand in hand. My calloused fingers feel rough against her soft palm. It's getting really warm now. I don't think we needed our coats, really. Better to take them and take them off than not to take them and be cold or wet, Maggie said as we were leaving. Suppose she's right. Usually is. We passed Nosy Owens. Afternoon, Nosy, I say loudly. Oh, don't call him that, chastises Margaret and laughs. Here we are then, I say, as we arrive at Mrs. Cooper's. Biggest house in the village. 3 stories and a basement. Whitewashed and pristine. I was happy enough here after I left the cottage for Tommy to move in. Proud man Claude. Keeps a clean house. The sun glints on the polished letterbox as we stand on the red painted doorstep. I knock the door. The horse head knocker clatters against the brass plate. We wait, and the sun shines on our backs. A bead of sweat runs down my forehead. I'm boiling, says Verdun. I knock again. Claude never answers. I'm sure he's going deaf. Polite to knock first, though. I push open the letterbox and find the coarse baling twine that hangs behind the door. I pull through the key and let us in. We take off our coats, set them down on the mat next to the wicker umbrella stand. Claude, I call it. It's only us. Snail, Margaret. There's no reply. Oh, your boots are leaving dusty marks on the floor, says Maggie. Oh, I'll wipe it up with a rag before we go, not to worry. I'm feeling uncomfortable. The hairs on my neck stand up as we walk down the hall to the sitting room. Déjà vu, they call it in France. Chantal told me. It's like I've done this before, you know. Claude! The sitting room is warm, but empty. The fire is crackling. We walk through into the parlour. There's half a cup of milky tea on the Welsh dresser. Oh, still warm, says Maggie. My hands are wet with perspiration. In the kitchen there's a smell of roast beef and the back door is open into the yard. Claude, it's only us. Claude, Snail, Maggie. My heart is pounding as the memories of finding Mrs. Cooper in the garden come flooding back. A cold shiver runs between my shoulder blades. Best wait here, love, I say. Take Verdun into the sitting room, perhaps. Get him to stoke the fire for us. She glances up at me with a concerned look on her face. The light shimmers across the grey slate steps as I climb up to the vegetable garden. And then I see him, lying on the cold earth, motionless. Claude, I say. Oh, Claude. Time stops. I take a sharp breath. Oh, hello, Hobart, puffs Claude. Give me a second, will you? Oh, Claude, man, what the hell are you doing? Claude seems confused. I'm just getting a few leaks, he replies. Was bending over and found 6pence. Was wondering if my mother dropped it here. My hands are trembling as he gets to his feet. What's the matter, boy, he says. You're as white as a sheet. You look like you've seen a ghost or something. Oh, good God, Claude, I say. I thought you were dead, man. Dead? What are you talking about, Hobart? I've never felt better. We walk back into the kitchen and Maggie gives him a big hug. What on earth is going on, he says. Get off me, man, you soft apeath. I got to finish the dinner. And he pulls himself free from her clinch. Maggie looks at me and smiles warmly. I put my arms around her waist. Oh, Maggie, I say as I pull her close, I love you to Nant Lass and back. And she looks into my eyes and kisses me gently on the mouth. And I love you, Robert Ackerman, you silly, lovely man.